Welcome. Welcome to the podcast Following Spirit Without Hesitation, Stories from Journeys of Deepening Trust. And today I have with me Thom Chaffey. Welcome, Thom.
Hello, Tanya.
Good to see you here.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So I met Thom. It's kind of like an intersection of us following spirit, if you like. I met Thom on Glastonbury tour, and before I went, it was the first time I'd been there in 25 years, or even been that far south, I think. And I'd been doing some work remotely. And so my guidance had said that I needed to go there in the physical to anchor in this work, this grid work, if you like, that I'd been doing. So there I was doing that on the tour, with all the people there. And I think Thom, somehow, because I kind of spirit said something to me, or I picked up something clairaudiently, and Thom, seemed to sort of tune into what I was doing. And then I assumed, Thom, follow your own guidance, and somehow we got talking. And then, like many people, I kind of say, yeah, sure, come up to the Highlands because no one ever comes this far north. And you're one of the few people, with your partner Miriam and your daughter Juniper, and I think Miriam was about 6 or 7 months pregnant at the time as well. You came up and visited and spent a week, and it's like I felt like I was an honorary grandmother, and I didn't know a year or so later that I would actually become a grandmother. So it was just this sort of beautiful cycle of events, or circle of events. So is there anything else you'd like to add to introduce yourself, Thom?
Um, Other than being a father and yeah, partner to my life partner at the moment. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm very privileged to be in a position where I can be and spend time with my children as a father, and as because I studied childcare, and that I spent a lot of time being there for other people's children. It's really nice to be able to be, a full-time father for them, especially in their early years. I think things will change as they're getting older. My youngest is now 7 months. Yeah, now. So yeah.
Yeah.
For
Have
the
three
foreseeable
children.
time, and yeah, yeah, Bruno's in between.
So you have three children now, and
Yeah,
I, yeah, that conscious parenting is so crucial. And I know that you do a lot of work. Both you and Miriam do a lot of work around that. Because if I remember rightly, Miriam's a qualified midwife, but has brought that into a more something more aligned with the evolving consciousness, shall we say? And
yeah,
so in a way, you work together as a team with bringing that awareness to conscious parenting.
yeah,
To,
and everything that involves. Which, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Birth is a very big theme for us as a couple, and also, yeah, sharing our experiences with birth. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yes, very. I mean, the birth is, yeah, an essential moment in life, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
One of the big transition, right? From spirit into physical form.
yeah.
Yeah. So before we go on to some of your stories, I would like you to, share, what does following spirit mean for you? That it's different for all of us, but at the same time, the core theme's the same, but we have different experiences or different processes, and it evolves in the various ways that it does. So what's it for you?
Um, for me, it's like generally it's a conscious decision to unite with the the web of consciousness that is life, the living spirit of life. It's innate in everything, and it's just a conscious decision to unite with that and to work alongside that or with it. And it was never always that clear. I mean, in hindsight, I've often done it unconsciously, but my first experience of it was when I was a child, and I was asking if if God is alive, if God exists. And this little example in the garden was just I was playing with a little football, and I kick it, and the wind blew it straight back to my feet, and that happened quite a few times, and that was like, okay, there is a higher power here, like in communion with me, and yeah.
That's a beautiful example of playing football with the wind, with the spirit, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
I like that. So I know you've got lots of stories,
Yeah.
and Tom. So what's the first story you'd like to share? You were talking about the birth process earlier, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the story you want to share first, but maybe it's going to unfold differently.
No, it's good. It's a good beginning, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's where most of us start, right?
Well, I start with my own birth and how I've come to yeah to understand it from various perspectives. But yes, yes, for my own birth, I was born cesarean, and it was a bit of a difficult situation for my mother. She was in hospital for a few months before the birth began because of she had bleeding, or she was bleeding from yeah um, from her yoni, and she was very scared and went into hospital. They said you have to stay here, and, she was in there until the birth. And I came 2 weeks early as an emergency cesarean because she woke up one morning and the bed was full of blood, and so they took us into the operating theatre and cesarean, and then they separated me. I was born in Yeovil Hospital. And they took me then to Bristol, and Mum stayed in Yeovil. And I was away for, I think, 5 to 7 days. Well, my dad was only allowed to visit me in the given time slots. So the first week I was, yeah, I don't know what happened exactly, but
Yeah.
yeah, without my mother, which is, yeah, quite a crazy scenario. A very crazy welcoming into this planet.
Yeah, and I just want to sort of intersect there and just say that whole, you know, that abandonment wounding, we kind of born with that anyhow, because that sense of being separated from source, but then the portal, our mother that we arrive through to then when that abandonment happens in the various ways that it can happen, it just magnifies that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it shows the significance to the stories that you're going to be sharing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, through that experience, it was always clear to me that when I have my own children, if I ever have my own children, then I would like to give birth to them at home. And I lived together with a midwife for 2 years. She was a home birth midwife, and she had such a passion and for life and for birth. And she taught me so much in those 2 years we were together. We spoke endless hours about birth and all sorts of things. We kind of symbiotically helped each other in our time together. And many years later, I met Miriam, my partner, while I was staying at the midwife's house. Yeah. So I went to visit the midwife, and Miriam was her student at the time. She was doing her last year in midwifery here in Germany, and yeah, it's where we met through the midwife friend. And so our meeting has been in birth, the theme of birth. And shortly, I mean, it was within a year, Miriam became pregnant with our first child, and it was both clear for us. It was clear for us both that we'd choose to do a home birth, and it happened to be that we had no other midwife present, and yeah, I was the midwife for my first child.
Beautiful.
And I mean, yeah, it's just an incredible moment, and then it's such an honor to be part of that, because I know that it's often not the case that the father's always kind of taken a back seat or put in a back seat during the process, but it was really nice to be there. And it was just, I mean, I mentally prepared, and we were physically prepared with all sorts of medicines which we potentially could need if anything went wrong. But it's still the moment at the beginning of the birth where I was like, okay, what am I doing here? What are we doing here? What's my role in this part of the journey? And it was just clear that I'm just holding the space. I'm there for her, for Miriam, and if ever there's anything she needs, I'm here to provide it for her. And that's exactly how.
It's more than just. So, you know, because holding space is such a big
Yeah.
big ability, right? It's not given enough credence, I feel. And you know, in shamanically, our whole birth process, you know, the pattern of our birth and our birth process, it's thought to affect about a third of our life and the way we are in our life, and so therefore the energy that flows through our life. So it's no wonder it's such a big theme and unfolding for you, and yet you're just through the process that you're sharing, you're there in the healing energy of that, which is what really that fascinates me. So I know you've got more to share, but I also know that there's also a story relating to Mexico coming as well. So yeah, so I'm curious. So I'll let you continue. I just felt I wanted to share that, Thom.
Yeah. Yeah, shortly thereafter, Miriam, I say shortly thereafter, it was a good year and a half, but when Miriam fell pregnant with our second child, yeah, we decided, I think she was 8 months pregnant when we decided we'd go to Mexico. Miriam didn't have a very good year that year. Her mother passed away in the spring, and that's the year we came up to Scotland when she was still pregnant with Bruno. And yeah, her dog passed away while we were up in Scotland.
Yeah, I remember, and that's
That was
they're long-term companions, aren't they? Yeah.
she'd been with us since she was 16, and she just kind of had enough. And we were looking for a place to stay for over winter in England, and then a friend of ours, the same midwife with whom we met, she was in Mexico, and she said, "Why don't you just come to Mexico?" And it took me about 2 weeks because I was quite strongly rooted in the idea of being in England. And then I started looking at pictures of Mexico, and I was like, "Wow, it actually looks like paradise. Like, why ever not go to paradise?" And so we, yeah, flew into Mexico and found a house to give birth to our son. And yeah, that's also a story in itself. We found the house where we were staying was, I mean, we moved down we flew into Cancun on the east Atlantic coast of Mexico. And we drove down from Playa del Carmen, then to Bacala, and then we ended up shortly before the birth in a house in Julha. It's a small village on the Laguna Bacala, on the lake of Bacala. And Julha, what we found out later, is it means in Mayan, it's the birthplace of the waters, because that's where the lake begins.
Wow,
And
beautiful.
yeah, and that's where we welcomed Bruno, our second child, into the earth. And yeah, again, it was just the two of us. Well, the three of us. Juniper was there. We had a friend there. She was with Juniper during the process, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could say, but I just kept giving very brief details.
Yeah, I know.
And it was,
I am curious though. I'm trying to guide you to this story of your
yeah,
peyote. Is that how you
yeah,
say it? Experience that you
yeah,
had while you were in Mexico? Because that
yeah.
I'll let you say that. So, when did that occur?
Shortly after the birth, we then traveled from the east coast to the west coast of Mexico. And given the situation, we had a camper van without any heating, any air conditioning, and it was really quite stressful with a small baby traveling through the real heat of the tropics. Miriam didn't really like it, and by the time we reached the west coast, she had decided that she had already booked a flight to leave, and yeah, it ended up that I stayed in Mexico for a month without her, and it was in that time where I was renting a house on yeah, and the last day of me being in this house, um, the guy who rented it out, he double booked it and a guy came that day that I was preparing everything to go, and it just so happened to be that this guy was holding the fire, um, the firekeeper for the peyote ceremonies from a tribe of yeah, northern Mexicans, the guardians of the medicine of peyote. And we had such a good connection, and it was clear that I was going to be taking part in the ceremony. And yeah, that's kind of yeah, that was the reason why we came together. Yeah,
That beautiful spirit-led synchronicity, right?
yeah,
That just, and yet, we have free will. We don't always have to say yes to these things when they pop
no,
up.
not at all.
But when we're doing this work and we've been doing it for long enough, we know that it's better not to resist. Yeah. So go on.
Yeah,
So you
yeah, it
had
didn't
this
come.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, we spent the week together because it was like running up to the ceremony, and yeah, very many synchronicities with that particular man. And yeah, the day of the ceremony, my brother was there with us, and there was a few friends that came along with the ceremony, but it was I can't remember the name of the tribe, but the Mirakami, that's like the word for the medicine man. He led ceremony in his way of singing and in the native tongue, and there was a woman translating what he was singing. So we were able to yeah settle in, get comfortable, and take the medicine, and yeah, it was an amazing journey. And in that process, I experienced my own conception, the moment of yeah, the moment of my conception, when my mother and father united, and the energies with which they brought to the table, so to speak. And in the moment of union of these two energies, in the moment that I was created physically. And yeah, I went through the whole process um, of pregnancy, of growing in the womb and feeling all the influences of the feelings and the surrounding environment, which kind of influenced in that time the emotions of my mother and everything she went through, to all the fears that she was carrying, all the joy. Um, yeah, and then rather than experiencing my birth as it was in the physical, I jumped through the portal, yeah, willingly. Like I really, yeah, rebirthed myself anew
Amazing.
through that. Yeah. And yeah, after like I literally really experienced it. Yeah, it wasn't just a vision, but it was really visceral. My whole body was, and I was even like um verbalizing or not, yeah, just vocalizing the tones of birth and everything that happened.
Yeah, I because I my understanding is, and because I did my undergraduate degrees in psychology, and I remember, and it's I went back when after my first son was born, my first child. I've only one son, and he was born by cesarean, emergency cesarean as well. And no, not an emergency. Anyhow, and I remember, so that's why I remember this whole idea of rebirth, of why it's important, because of with a cesarean, that whole need to go through that literally the yoni, through that whole birth portal, because of the contraction of the muscles and the effect it has on the skeletal system, and what it activates as part of that process. And it was recognized by one of the early psychotherapists as the importance of that. And what was interesting with my daughter, I also noticed a similar thing. So I had an emergency cesarean with her, that she used to love getting into tight places, like really, because it's like it was almost, she was missing that. So yeah. So having that rebirth experience, it was almost like it's crucial, right, for that evolution of your own consciousness. So I'll let you
Yes.
continue. Sorry.
No, no problem. Yeah, naturally the
I'm just
it's skipping a little bit. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Naturally,
I think we're okay.
yeah, naturally as a father, and not having much of a father role in my childhood, the theme of fatherhood is extremely important to me, and how I can um, best stand in my power as a father and transmute that over to my children, or how to hold them. And yeah, I think revisiting the birth experience and rebirthing myself in that respect is, yeah, part of bringing that all together. The healing that wound. I mean, yeah, when Juniper was very small, it was really, really difficult for me um, when she would cry, when she'd have like this moment when it's almost like a helpless, shrill screaming, and that would touch me so deeply. I couldn't handle it when that particular tone came out. I was like, what? I couldn't have it near me because it touched me so in this wound. And then I realized that needs to be addressed. And yeah, and then it happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what parenting does, doesn't it? I mean, parenting does put us in touch with if we allow it with our own woundings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, we're healing our woundings while we're raising children, and you know, they're these
Yeah.
mirrors,
Pure mirror.
magnifying mirrors. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You can't really hide from it. Yeah.
yeah. So it feels like this is a for you. It's such a powerful part thread almost. It's more than a thread. It feels like this great river that's running through your life, but that you're being guided through,
Mhm.
like through sort of various synchronicities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any other stories you would like to share about these transitions and
Yeah. Yeah.
thing
Yes,
or anything
I mean,
else?
I've had the the opposite door to birth is death, the leaving life, and also through life, I've had a few experiences on assisting people at end of life care, and it can be so beautiful, and the same as birth. I mean, it can be so beautiful. I mean, it's a very potentially difficult experience. But if you're open to the transition and opening the portal of life and aware of this, the connection to spirit, then it's less um, less difficult, less traumatizing. And yes, my through my experience, I realized it is the same door opening. Yeah, when life comes in and when life leaves. And my most recent experience was of this portal opening was with a good friend and my teacher of didgeridoo or yidaki, the um, traditional style of playing. He spent like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the turn of the century. He spent a lot of time in Northeast Arnhem Land with a particular tribe of Aboriginals, the Guru Vivi family, and the father, well, yeah, um, he he's considered the custodian of the instrument, and it's like the branch of where this instrument spread throughout the country. And so we spent time with that tribe and learned a lot of the techniques and also a lot of just the perceptions of life through the Aboriginal. It's a very counter perception or like way of seeing the world to what we grow up with in the West, because they literally live and see time as not a lineal, but they're living it as it is. You know, they're not taught that there's a beginning, middle, and end. This life is it, and this is life, and it's all connected. It's the spiral of life, and
Wow.
it's just the very and through playing the instrument, I can really, yeah, I mean, it's given me so much personally. Yeah, just opening, like it's a resonant, and it just resonates your cells on a very, yeah, on an atomic level, and you just become in resonance with everything else that is resonating in life. Yeah, the whole of life, you just open to this wavelengths of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
and I think this is one of the reasons, like with following spirit, that that's so important, is because things aren't linear, and that's why if we open up to the following spirit, we open up to I've forgotten the word I was wanting to use. We open up to our prosperity, which is so much more than sort of some sort of financial reward. But I think by being prosperity is like we connect with our heart, we follow our heart, but we're out of linear time. So that's why we can end up doing random things that are kind of counterintuitive to the way our Western minds have been trained in the society that we live in. So yeah,
Good example of
I
that.
love what you're saying.
It's a bit of an offshoot, but to coincide with what you just said, it's like often I get the impulse to take something with me when I'm going somewhere. And I'm like, why on earth would I ever need this?
Mm.
And then sometimes I don't follow that intuition. I think, okay, that's ridiculous. I don't need that. And then I get to where I'm going and I was like, oh, that's why that needed. I wish I had it with me. But yeah, other times I do have it
Yeah.
with me and I'm glad that I followed that intuition. And yeah, that's the part of us that knows. Yeah. But
And
yeah, with my
what the didgeridoo, I love the idea of that
Mhm,
didgeridoo actually connecting us with that, connecting you with that. So
mhm.
continue your story, Tom.
Yeah, yeah. So Sven Mulder, his name is what was my teacher, and I had only met him 2 years before, and he had such a wealth of knowledge. And like our meeting when we first met, we spent the evening then just sharing his stories of his time in Australia, and he was initiated in it's like days of initiation or in the traditional styles of playing. And yeah, I met him the year before, and he was on the following year he was diagnosed with cancer, and he kind of was every time I spoke with him, because he lived quite distant from me, so I couldn't see him, but we often spoke over the phone, and he always sounded so full of life, so joyful, and yeah, and then it there was the opportunity to visit the tribe with which he stayed with in Australia. They came to Switzerland to give a workshop, and they haven't been in Europe for the last 7 years, so he was really um, looking forward to seeing them again. And yeah, I wanted to go there to take part in the workshop, and I said that I'll be happy to take him with me, and he came together with his partner. Um, yeah, to our house that weekend. And he arrived on the Friday, and we left on the Saturday. But on the Friday night, when he arrived, I saw him, and I was really shocked because he was really frail. Really, I mean, I think he weighed less than 40 kilos or around 40 kilos, and he was almost just like a skeleton, And up to our house in the garden, there's quite a few steps he had to take, and yeah, he struggled. He was very weak. It took his time, and I was there next to him. I was holding him as support, and I often just said, that we could carry him, would like give him more support. And he's like, no, no, I need to do this. He was very determined to make this journey. And
Mm.
when we arrived into our house, he really needed to fight. Like he was shivering from cold. And so we made the fire, and he was sat in front of it, and we were speaking until 2 o'clock in the morning yeah. And then I went to bed, and the last thing he said to me was, I'll visit you in your dreams, he said. Ich besuche dich in deinen Träumen. Yeah, and the next morning when I came, because we sleep in our yurt, and when I came back into the house in the morning, he never really, he never really woke up that morning. And together with his partner, we were kind of, okay, we're in and here. We kept juggling with the idea, okay, is it a good idea to take him in this state? Yeah? And there was a moment where I doubted doing it, or thinking, yeah, I thought it was probably not a good idea, because if he passes away on the way, yeah, because he was very weak. But we both knew that it was his wish, yeah, to be there and to see his family again. And if we didn't do that, because it was literally his family, yeah, they had adopted him into his tribe. He had an Aboriginal name, and um, yeah, so really, I kept like mentally I was doubting it, but inside I knew that it was the right thing to do, and that we're going to be doing it. And so we prepared a little bed in the back. We put a mattress in the back of the car. My brother carried him down and put him in the back of the car, and we drove. It was a good 6 hour trip. And
It's more of a van though you've got, isn't it, Tom? I'm just trying to
okay,
get the
yeah,
visuals
yeah,
for people.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't all wedged in. It's elongated. Yeah, it's a Ford Transit Connect, and so it's got space in the back. But yeah, space for a mattress with the seats, front seats down. And we had one single seat up where his partner sat next to him. And he was like, before we got in the car, he was a few times very much present. Like, I played Didgeridoo next to him, and that always brought him back. He was,
Yeah.
um, and there was like, because this transition time is often it's shut away from, so we don't experience it in everyday life. But to have him there at home and the children running around, like amidst normal everyday life, the kids
Mm.
were then with him, and there was a few moments where he was really there, and he took the kids by the hand, he was stroking their faces, and like really 100% present with them and with himself. And yeah, I think it's so nice to be in that environment in these last stages and not locked away alone in a you know in a confined space. But yeah, along the journey, um, the first the first stop that we made, it was like 2 hours into the trip, and I stopped and opened the door in the car park on the motorway, and right there on the floor was a dead buzzard led there, wings spread open, and also in the car park there was lots of storks just walking around on the grass. And I don't know if that's normal for that area because I've never been there before, but there was two or
Mm.
three storks just walking through and so it was very clear to me that spirit is very present, and I mean I could feel it. It's like almost physical. Um, this when it's really present, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't really think much of the buzzard at the time. Well, I did spend time looking at it and watching it, and also put it somewhere where it can really rest. And then we carried on our way. And yeah, we arrived quite late in the evening, about 8, and the Aborigines were already doing their concert at the event, but it was organized that Sven would stay in the house where they were staying. And so one of the organizers from Australia, he took us to the house and helped me carry Sven into his bed, and we were always hopeful that he would come too. Yeah, like the intention of going there was also for him to receive a healing session with the didgeridoo, with the yidaki from the Aborigines, because it's known within their culture that it's not even put into question that it's possible, and it not only possible that it does happen that people are cured from whatever the disease is, that it can help them on their way to healing. Unfortunately, it never came that far, that evening, the Aborigines came to see Sven, and they were really shocked. They were to see him in that state. They didn't hear anything of him, and again they prayed for him and said also that they'll see him and they'll do a session with him in the morning. And so yeah, having had experience in old people's home myself, I was quite comfortable with the situation to get him, prepare him for bed and get him cleaned and everything. And yeah, the next morning I was woken up by Vernon, the brother of one of the Aborigines that were there, the brother of Larry Guruvivi. And he said, come, check. And I went into Sven's room, and it was clear to me I didn't really have to. It's clear when the body's no longer
Inhabited.
bewohnt. Yeah, I had the German word in my head. Bewohnt, inhabited. Yeah, it's quite obvious. Like there's no signs of life. Yeah, and it was. I mean, his body was still warm. That means that he was very fresh. I mean, it was only maybe an hour or two beforehand that he had passed. And I mean, it was a bit of a shock at that moment. I mean, because we were full of hope that he would come to. So we had a bit of a like, what should we do? Like, how do we
Because
deal with this?
you're in a different country, right? You'd cross the
Yeah,
border
exactly.
from
Yeah,
Germany through to Switzerland to
yeah, hmm yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And one of our impulses, both together with his partner, we were like, okay, we need to take him home. Yeah,
Mm.
we need to get him back home. But yeah, we decided to give him time because again, in the Aboriginals, how they deal with the transition from life to the spirit world, they celebrate life. I mean, they grieve as well, but they do it openly, and they do ceremonies which can last 3 to 5 days. You know, they're like sending the spirit off in making sure it gets to where it needs to go. And yeah, they done a ceremony for him in the morning, and it was just un un unbeschreiblich. Like I can't even really start to describe in words like the Schwingung, the vibration of the space. Yeah, like it was really an elevated um, experience, or the whole environment was elevated from this passing. And there is yeah, because of the situation, the Larry and Vernon, the two Aborigines, they were doing a tour throughout Australia. Then they came to Switzerland. And then they had photographers and um, the guy that was filming their experience to make it into a documentary. And so he filmed, with permission, he filmed the whole process. And um, yeah, and they played they have a particular song. They like, when it comes to the didgeridoo, it's almost like it has its own language. They speak through the yidaki, and each vibration has particular meanings. Like when they, for example, a song that they make with the didgeridoo, they listen to what's happening, to the vibrations of what's around them, and then they reinterpret that through their own sounds. So it's like it is a way of communion with nature and spirits. And so they have particular notes in which they use to help send the spirit on its way. And it was like we opened all the windows of the house. We did contemplate taking him out on the grass and just letting him lie on the grass. but we decided to leave him in the bed, just so that it's more open and more free for the spirit to move. And yeah, it was in Lens in Switzerland, like high up in the mountains. And yeah, we had a beautiful panorama view of the mountains on the other side. And in the sky, it was like, it was cloudy sky, but it was like the funny chemtrail clouds that are they have patterns.
Yeah.
And shortly after the ceremony, there was like almost like an arrow penetrating up through those clouds, and it was like, okay, he's gone, yeah. He's on his way. Yeah. And that like
Oh, I've got
opened up.
chills with that.
Yeah, and we sang and danced
Amazing.
in the garden, yeah, to help him on his journey.
Beautiful.
And I think, yeah, it's a very different way of approaching death. Like in our society, it's very much because we give so much importance to what we create in the physical, and like our whole identity is surrounding, yeah, what we've achieved and everything that we've gained through this life. When that goes, it's such a hard transition.
And I think you mean in the material sense, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rather than the spiritual sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I think, yeah, for him, it was a relatively easy. For him, it was important. For Sven, it was important that he doesn't. That he said that he doesn't want to be caught. Yeah, he doesn't want his spirit to get caught, or like, and that was like, it's not. It really was very different. It turned out to be a very different experience than we had hoped. Yeah, we hoped that we'd heal, and even he himself, he had plans of what he would do when he gets back home. He wanted to start art again and do a lot of things, but I think that was his healing process. Yeah, that was his process of healing, and that to go in that way was so powerful and such an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an honor for me to take part in that process and allow that to
Yes.
happen. And I didn't really
Yeah.
even question it, but a lot of people after, they were like, "Oh wow, like how where did you find the courage to do it?" Yeah, and I
Yeah.
didn't even question it.
And I
Just
think to facilitate, someone's wishes like that, whatever the outcome,
yeah,
that many of you were there, sort of you were very much needed because of your experience. His partner was needed, and the whole, but to follow your own guidance within that, and that
hmm
if one of you had followed the doubt, that
hmm
wouldn't have unfolded so beautifully the way
hmm
it was aligned.
yeah,
And I feel with what you're sharing, with the birthing processes and the dying processes, and bringing those into community, bringing those into family life, bringing those into community, and then what happens in between, because I know you're also, there's this again, you're looking at conscious parenting, and then there's the conscious dying, and then we've also spoken about conscious community. And it's like there's so
yeah. I think
much I know that we need to unpick, right, before we even get there still. But these are two, those
pinnacle
birthing
column. hmm
processes are essential, right, to creating, I feel, from having listened to you, that
Yeah,
conscious community that flows in between those two major events of us arriving in the physical and leaving the physical.
Yeah, I
So
think
do you have,
that's also a big part of the. Sorry,
no, it's fine, you carry on.
I was going to say that they're like the both the columns that hold life, make life possible, that comes in the door, that and everything in between that is connected to these two events. And yeah, it's I lost the trail, but is
As you talk about the columns, what I'm seeing is of course that number 11, right? That 11, 11, that people do it. It brings another meaning to that gateway. Okay,
yeah,
that gateway that very often through our different transitions just through our lifetime, but of course they are also alpha and omega as well in
yeah. Now I've
in a
got it
very,
again.
yeah, go, great, go for it.
Is yeah, like in the traditions of the past, yeah, there is a really incredible no, sorry, a really important moment in life. And I feel that when we bring those back into community experiences, birth and death, then creating ceremony and creating traditions surrounding them, then everything in life will kind of find its place again. Because they're such important parts, and they've kind of been taken away out of the household, um, out of the tribe, and they're like institutionalized experiences.
Mm.
But as soon as we bring them back into everyday life, I feel that everything in between will just come of its own. Because when you have the old people and the children at home together, I mean, it just looks after itself. I mean, at the moment we're staying in a house, and there's I think he's 70, mid 70s, the man living here, and it's just amazing to see how much he doesn't have any grandchildren of his own. He does have children, but no grandchildren. And he's just open, like his heart blooms when he's interaction with the children. And yesterday he came downstairs in the morning and we were preparing breakfast. And he was like, "Oh, is there anything I can do?" And we were like, "Oh, no, but the baby's on the floor. You can just play with him if you like." And he just got knelt down on the floor with him, and just it's such a beautiful interaction, yeah. And nowadays it's not allowed, yeah. I mean, literally. I mean, I worked when I was younger. I worked in a kindergarten from Monday to Friday, and at the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I worked in an old people's home. And I discussed with the matron in the old people's home if it's possible to bring the children um, here or to the old people's home and just to get them to interact, because I've seen how beneficial it can be.
Yeah.
But it's not possible. There's too much bureaucratic nonsense that gets in the way. No one wants to take the responsibility or the steps to jump through those like insurance loopholes and everything that would be necessary to make that happen. And it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, in some places, I believe it is happening.
Yeah, in Holland, I know there's places, and yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and I,
worked. I also worked in a oh, I don't think we call them all people's homes here anymore, but it does help. I worked as a cook for a while as well,
hmm
so not as a carer as such, but that it's so interesting being around people who are, close to the end of life, and their
hmm
their attitude to life is so different, and it's so
yeah,
needed,
definitely, hmm
you know, to
hmm
experience that. And I guess my other experience, other than having my own children, is like when I was, still had livestock care and I was lambing, and that understanding of how close birth and death are,
hmm
because in the birthing process there was also the dying as well in different
hmm
ways. And so that was my personal experience of that, of that. So not such a lifelong process as you're having, but also a recognition and an understanding of how interlinked the two are.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I went off at a tangent. Tom, I'm the one who's
Ah,
supposed
it's
to
a good.
keep
It's
keep it
the
all
tree of life,
together.
the branch. They're all individual branches on the tree of life. It's all connected.
Yeah, but I love that. I think because as we mentioned earlier on, you know, our birthing, how our experiences of being born have such a huge impact on how our life unfolds.
Mhm.
And in Jungian analysis, it's recognized, Jung recognized that our earliest memory or our first dream was also part of how our life would unfold.
Mhm.
It was very much that then the theme. So those kind of two are very interlinked, I feel. And so all the way towards to the end, all the way to, you know, we're still living that original dream, that first memory in our dying process as well. So it's so what you're saying about everything else, if we bring those processes back into community,
I'm gonna take responsibility again for these. Yeah.
yeah, it will just naturally flow because we will, that experience is then held within the memory of the community, not
Mhm.
just within the individual or within their immediate family or those who are present. There are those that the witnessing becomes broader. And then it goes back to, it takes a village to raise a child, because it's
Mhm.
not just about raising the child, it's also about the gifts that each of us have to bring to that community. We're
Mhm.
more aware of them. So
Yeah. I
I'm off at a
mean,
tangent again.
mhm.
So I'm going to try and bring it back to form. Tom.
I know as a father here, with I mean, as you said, like it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah, we have three children as a couple, and we don't have um the community that we would really like, that we would ideally have, in the sense of having the support of grandfathers and grandmothers and yeah, other family members or even friends. It seems like it's coming, but at the moment it's just, I mean, it's not possible to fulfill the needs of all three children and mother and father in such a like isolated environment. Yeah, it's like it's not possible. I mean, you always have to um yeah, like one is always has to sacrifice himself to provide for the others, and in a way that's kind of a natural thing. But yeah, obviously the village idea, the idea of the village, having the village and the elders and yeah, all age groups together, um, it really makes that much easier. I don't think we're not made to be isolated in our families, and it creates so much unnecessary, maybe not unnecessary, because maybe we need to make the step to realize how important it is to be in community and to be together and to hold each other through such events and to share and to yeah, just yeah, come back
There's,
to our
there's
humanity.
something really, yeah, and there's something really important that you brought up there, and that's about of all ages. And
Hmm.
I feel because of our school system, the way it segregates us into age groups through the different years, right? And I'm fortunate enough to live in a community, because it's that small, that it's not possible for people to be limited by that here, you know.
Hmm.
If they did, they wouldn't have any friends, you know. So and so it's really a really beautiful experience to see how to live in a community that's not limited by that kind of age segregation. But then you go to other places and they're still very much limited by that age segregation. And we speak about many issues, but I feel that that is such an important one for people to get past, because I do see it in people building communities, but they kind of just stay within their age range or their age group, and they don't easily welcome people, or they're even suspicious of people who aren't within that age range or age group. And part of that goes back to their projection onto their mother wounding and their father wounding, and and so on and so forth. So I think there is a lot, there's still a lot of work we need to do, but within community as well as within family. And so that's why I really love what you're saying about you having that recognition of that whole vision of from the birth to the death, and to be inclusive of it all. Get back on track, Tanya.
Well, that's the thing, like with birth and death, everything's connected, yeah. And I've had talks with people about birth, and it really like it interlinks to every aspect of your life. And
Yeah,
yeah, all these tangents are like valid.
yeah, yeah. And I think we're showing that. And what you said about the didgeridoo and that whole the way of living outside of linear time as well, and that understanding of the way those energies come in, which brings us back. I'm trying to bring us back to the following spirit without hesitation, which is the theme that I'm trying to stick to. But of course, it's not linear. So at the moment, I am being restricted linearly, but I'm imposing that for myself as well as for the podcast. So, Tom, is there anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye to our listeners and watchers?
I'd just like to share that it's been a continual process, but I recognize that now I'm in a position to offer my help and support to people, and particularly fathers who or to fathers to be, and yeah, in that transitionary process. So if that's kind of the focus that I would like to work upon, and also with the end of life care,
Yeah.
that to approach that in a more conscious way, and I'm very much open. I would consider that my work. Yeah, every time I've done it so far, it's just it's been spirit led. I've not done anything to. It's not. I've not had a contract or anything. It's not like work, so just as we know it, but it's spirit work. Yeah, it's just being open and then creating the life where I can be open to move with the wind. And luckily, I have a partner who respects and understands that need to be fluid, and yeah. I guess a big part of it is having trust in the vital, like the consciousness of life. Like we are just like drops in the ocean of consciousness, and just having faith and trust in the process of life, and allow it to unfold as it not as it will, yeah, as
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you, Tom. So I'll put contact information in the description box underneath wherever you're seeing or listening to this. I know that neither you or Miriam are on social media much, so we'll put other ways of contacting you and connecting in person. So you never know, Tom might visit you. like you did me. But I really, really appreciate this chat, and it's nice for me, right, to go off at a tangent and not to, because I feel, we're at this point in the podcast where it's taking on its own life. So it's bringing in, going through this transition into the next stage of what's unfolding. So I was able to get out of the linear for a while there. So I appreciate you facilitating that for me, Thom.
It's also a birthing process.
Yeah. Yes. All right. I'm sending you all much, much love. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you ever want to be a guest, there is a link below. You can always get in touch with me. Okay. With much love from my heart to yours.